in Luke chapter 15, the video that you showed this morning that gives us a modern day understanding of the prodigal son. I think these videos are excellent. There are 6 in the series, and we showed one in Sunday school last week, and just gives us kind of a modern kind of situation, because I can guarantee you in our world today there are a multitude of prodigal sons. There's just a bunch of them that for how many times I run into people that talk about how they used to go to church when they were younger, and they used to do this, and how the world's kind of got into their lives, and things have changed. So today we're going to look at, don't you just want to go home? Come home. So there were 2 flies, Mortimer and Leonardo. And they were in this kitchen after lunch was over with, and they were flying around, and they picked up this aroma that they just could not resist. So they flew around until they came to this pancake turner, and there was something on the handle that caught their attention, and it was some kind of lunch meat. So they got on that handle of that spatula and just ate and ate and ate and ate, and man, it was fantastic. But after they had been there for quite some time eating all this lunch meat, whatever it was, they decided that they felt some movement around them. They needed to fly away while they were not in danger. But unfortunately, all that they had eaten, and they tried to fly away, they got smashed. And the moral of the story: don't fly off the handle when you're full of baloney. It only gets worse. The reason I use that story is because that's exactly what the Pharisees do. They fly off the handle while they're still full of baloney. Because they make a statement about Jesus. What's he doing hanging around all these sinful people? It doesn't make any sense. And as a result of their comments, Jesus is going to tell them 3 parables. They're all tied together. We're just going to look at the prodigal son. That's what the parable is entitled by most people. I entitle it the waiting father. But there's 3 there. Okay? There's the parable of the lost sheep, the parable of the lost coin, and now the parable of the lost son. And all 3 of these are connected. This whole chapter 15 of Luke is connected to this statement that the Pharisees have made. So we look at the story of the parable of the prodigal son. And the first thing that he wants to do is what? You know the story? What does he want? His share of the inheritance. So he makes this demand of his father. Now, there's more to it than that. Okay? He says to his father, "Give me what's mine." Well, the problem is it's not his. Okay? It's an inheritance. Now, there's a lot deeper meaning here than him just wanting his money. He says, "Give me what is mine. Give me my inheritance. I want my share of the estate." Now, he has an older brother, so the older brother is going to get 2/3. He's going to get 1/3. But you know what is the underlying statement that he has just made? He's looking at his father, and he is saying, "Dad, I want you dead. Because that's how I get my inheritance. If you're dead, that's what I want. I want you to die so I can have what's mine." Now, if you were a father and your son, hopefully none has ever said that to you, but if they would make that kind of statement, how would you react to that? Brody, what? He had a response, Rachel. Okay. Wouldn't that break your heart? That you would have a son come and tell you something like that? That's what he's demanding from his father. He is in an act of rebellion against his father. What is it that he doesn't like about his father? He doesn't like living in his house. He doesn't like going according to his rules. He doesn't like any of this stuff. He wants to be free. You know that complete freedom is a myth. It's impossible. it's impossible to have freedom without authority. That if there is no authority, it's chaos. And look around in our world today and look what we see going around us, the chaos. You know, in Judges, there's a verse that says there was no king in Israel, for everyone went about doing what was right in their own eyes. That's what's happening in our world today. He wanted to be free. He wanted to be free. So he makes this demand, and he does what a lot of people do. He wanted the privilege, he wanted the result of his father, but he didn't want the responsibility of being the son. And a lot of people do that. They want the blessings of God, but they don't want God. And this young man doesn't have any idea. He doesn't know his father. You would think that would not be the case, but he doesn't even know his father. And he wants what his father has for him, but he doesn't want his father. He wants to be blessed by his father, but he does not want to be the son. And there's a lot of people like that in the world today. They want to be blessed by God, but they don't want to be a Christian. They don't want to make some kind of decision for Jesus, but boy, we want everything that God will bless us with, but not the responsibility of worshiping him. What does the Father do? He lets him go. He lets him go. He doesn't disown him. He does not do anything that would harm him. He gives him his inheritance, and he lets him go. So the son now is going to have the freedom to make his own choices. One of the most dangerous places we can ever be is in a position of having to make all our own choices. Because you know what? We're not very smart. We think we are, but we're not. We're not. In fact, I would go as far as say this, that anything in our lives that we think will bring us freedom is going to cause us to be a slave. Amen. Outside of Jesus. He is the only one that can control me without destroying me. Everything else is going to destroy me eventually, as we see in the life of this young man. So he makes his departure. Where's he going to move to? You know what the scriptures say? Where's he going to move to? Distant country. What does that mean? Anybody? He's going to get as far away from his dad as he can get. He wants nothing to do with what his father is doing in his life. So he doesn't want to submit to his authority. You know, that's really another problem. That's a whole other sermon. Everybody wants a Savior, but nobody wants a Lord. Everybody wants their sin forgiven, but nobody wants somebody to tell them what to do. And we wonder why the influence of Christianity is waning away in our society. He's ambitious to have his freedom. He wants no restraints. He wants to do whatever he wants to do. He wants nothing to do with his past life. And this promise of freedom, you know, sin always promises that freedom, does it not? And it always makes us a slave. It doesn't matter whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter what it is. It gives us this promise of some kind of freedom, but it always enslaves us. And he wants to be free. He wants to do everything on his own. And as we read the story, we can see slowly as his life falls apart. Step by step by step. You know, there are times that we go outside of God's will and do what we want, and no lightning bolt comes down from heaven and hits us, and we think we got away with it. We think there's not going to be any ramifications, no consequences to it. But it just, little by little, it just chips away. I always pose it as if we took this big rock and threw it in the middle of the pond, there'd be this big splash, wouldn't there? But slowly what? Those ripples just keep coming and coming and coming. That is what God means in Deuteronomy when he says your sin will find you out. We can't sin against God and get away with it with no penalty or no punishment or anything else. It's going to be there. It's going to come back to get us, and it can be years and years later. The sins that we have committed come back, and the consequences are there. In the giving of the Ten Commandments, one of the commandments says that God says, I will visit the sin of the parents on the third and fourth generation. He's not talking about guilt, he's talking about consequence. The way I live will bring consequences not only to me, but to everyone I know. Family, friends, the whole works. There's going to be a price to be paid there. This young man doesn't think so. He thinks he's going to be free, and that is the way, that's his plan for his life. Frank Sinatra had this song out called, I'll Do It My Way. What a horrible, horrible song. What a horrible, horrible thought. Okay? Because our world is full of people that have tried to live their life their way. And look at the mess that we're in. So he wants, that's his plan. I'm going to go out and live the way I want to live. I'm going to prove that I'm worth something. I'm going to prove that I'm a big shot. What a huge mistake. Huge mistake. I know of a young man I've known for a long, long time. I'm not sure how old he would be now, but when he turned 18 years old, he inherited an unbelievable amount of money. I'm talking over $50,000 or $60,000. And I didn't see him for a while, about 3 weeks. So one day I saw him in town. I asked how he was doing. I hadn't seen him for a while. He said, I've been up in Chicago. That me and some of my friends rented one of the most expensive suites in one of the most expensive hotels in Chicago. And in 3 weeks, him and his 4 friends had spent $60,000 on motel bills, whatever else they were going to do. And now he's back, no job, no money. Wow. I kept telling him, go to school, do something with that, but he did not. He was going to live life the way he wanted it. He was going to do everything that he wanted to do, and then he squandered everything, and that's what this young man has done here in this story. He squandered it all. He lost his wealth, he lost his prosperity, he lost his inheritance. He wasted his time, he wasted his energy, he wasted his money, he wasted his talent, he wasted all his resources, and life did not work out the way he thought it was going to work out. And that's where this young man is at. Okay? So things get worse. All the money's gone. What's he going to have to do now? Go to work. Terrible thought, isn't it, Bob? Okay? Bob kept trying to figure out how he'd get Georgia to go to work and he could just stay home, and it just didn't. Still working on that, are you, Bob? No. Okay. Had to go to work. Had to find a job. Okay? But where does he work at? What does he get a job doing? Feed pigs. Now, if he was a Jewish young man, that would be the height of the whole thing, to be around a pig for any reason. But he's not. Okay, in the parable we'll look at see where this young man lines up here. But plan B is, plan A was to go live life the way I want to. Plan B is to eke out some kind of existence just to get a job. We have those people like that today. In fact, there is one gentleman that has a bumper sticker I see quite often that says, "Thank God it's Friday." All he's living for is the weekend. I'm working Monday through Friday, but I can't wait until Friday and I can go out and do whatever I decide that I'm going to do. But eventually, what's he going to do? You know, you would think this young man, that if he has lost everything and this job is really, really horrible, you think maybe he'd go home? That maybe he would go back to his father and say, boy, I blew this. This was wrong. But no, not yet. He doesn't. So why do you think that maybe he doesn't go home? A lot, and I'm going to tell you, folks, in all honesty, there's a lot of people that have this attitude as far as coming back to God. What could be a reason why? I'm not saying biblically here in your own mind. What could be a reason why he doesn't go home? Pride. Okay, that's one. You know, the hardest thing we'll do in life is admit we're wrong. Okay, there's a few of us that's never done that probably because we're always right, Dan. Right? Yeah. What's this? I was talking to Dan. Boy, she's pointing her pen. And, yeah. Okay. Okay. But that could be one, but that's not the biggest reason I think. Anybody else?
Shame.
Pardon me?
Shame.
He'd be ashamed. Okay, that would go into the pride deal. He doesn't think he can. He's done so much wrong. And he has done so much against his father. He doesn't think he can come back. Okay? I'm with people a lot like that. Boy, Joe, I've done so many bad things in my life. I have screwed up so badly. God would never want me back. What a shame that they would feel that way. Okay? Let's keep going. The story's not over with yet. So he decides that he's just going to get a job. He doesn't go home. He doesn't think he can. He's afraid to admit that he has failed in what he is doing. And there's times that when we walk away from God, we wonder if God would ever want us back. After all I've done, and he would still be willing to forgive me. Anytime you have a question about that, folks, you look at the cross. Look at Jesus hanging there, and from the cross he yells out what? Absolutely. That's what he came for. That's what he came for. And we're getting closer to what this parable is all about. It's like a gentleman that run this company, and they had a problem with one of their computers. So he called one of his employees home to find out how he could take care of this problem. And when the phone rang a couple times, someone picked up the phone. He heard this little boy say, "Hello?" Boss said, "Is your daddy home?" "Yes." "Can I speak to him?" "No." "He's busy." "Well, is your mom home?" "Yes." "Can I speak to her?" "No." "She's busy too." "Well, can I leave a message with someone besides you? Is there somebody else there?" "Yes." "Who?" "A policeman." "A policeman? May I speak to the policeman?" "No. He's busy." "What's he doing?" "Talking to my mom and dad." "What's going on here?" "Well, wait a minute, the fire truck just pulled up." And he's very concerned then. He says to the little boy, what's going on? Then he hears this other noise, and he asks the little boy, "What's the noise I hear?" And she says, "It's the helicopter coming down." He said, "Well, what's going on there? Why is everybody busy there? Why is everybody there?" In a very quiet voice, the little boy said, "They're looking for me." They're looking for me. The point of these parables is that God's looking for us. We may not even know we're lost. You know, I look at those three parables. I don't think the sheep even knew he was lost. The coin would have no way of knowing he was lost, but the son did. He willfully was lost, and God is looking for them to bring them back. So finally, what is plan C for this young man? Decision to do what? No choice left. Okay? Now, the question still is, has he repented at this point? And there's still a good chance he has not. He's going to go home because why? There's nowhere else to go. It's a lot better at home than it is here. So he makes this decision. And I think that the phrase that is used there is fantastic. It says he came to himself. He began to realize, he began to reflect upon some things that he needed to think about. So he decides that he will go home, and he begins to walk home. And what does he do as he begins to walk home? He comes up with his speech. "Here's what I will tell my father. I will tell him that I have sinned against him." Let's see where we can find this to read it. 17, okay? When he came to his senses, that's always a good illustration of becoming a Christian, when I come to my senses. He said, "How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father." Sounds good, doesn't it? Not so much. What's he want to be treated like? "I'm coming home, Dad. I want you to pay me. I blew the inheritance. I spent all of this money, but I want you to pay me. I want he didn't say, I'll be your slave. He wants money from his dad to come back home. And he prepares this speech for his father. And he continues that speech, and he's going to go back, and he's going to confess his sin. He's going to want his father to take him back. But his plans get all messed up. Verse 20. So he got up and went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Okay? Now we're going to stop there just for a second. So he's on his way, he's repeating this, he's rehearsing what he's going to tell his dad when he gets there, and dad messes it all up. Okay? What does dad do? He had compassion, and he did what?
Forgave him.
Before that. He forgave him when he left. Ran to him. He ran to him. I was not able to find it on Google, but there was a story that I read about a man that painted a picture of the father. And as the father, it shows him running down the path, and he's got one blue shoe and one red shoe on. By choice of the artist. And what is the artist trying to get across? He was so excited, he didn't even put on the right pair of shoes. He put his shoes on, he ran down the road to his son. You think it's just coincidence that Dad was looking out down that road when his son came back? What do you think, George?
He was looking for him all the time.
All the time. He was looking for him all the time because it's his son. It was his son. Okay? Danny and Brooke drive back from Kansas City, or Rich and Jill drive back from Columbus. Every once in a while, I know when they leave, I'm looking at the watch and they ought to be here in just a little bit. I'm looking. I'm going to make sure that I'm ready when they get here and all those types of things. So that's what a parent does. That's what a father does. He's waiting to see his son here, and he runs to him. And what does the son say to him? Verse 21, Father, I have sinned against heaven, against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But Dad interrupts it. He doesn't get to do his speech. That one that he has prepared about being a hired man and all of that. Dad messes it up. Because what does the father say? He turns to his servants and says, get the robe, get the ring. We're going to have a party. We're going to have a party. Why?
The son returned.
The son returned. Right? The son's back. He was dead, and now he's alive. He was lost, and now he is found. And he is so thrilled by that, he doesn't even ask, does he? When we decide, after we have strayed away from God for so long, to come back, folks, God's not going to sit us down at a table and talk to us about every sin that we've committed. It ain't going to happen that way. Okay? He is going to be so thrilled that we've come back. That's all he's concerned about, that we're back. And that is what Jesus is getting across in the parable here, that he's trying to help us to understand. When did the son truly repent? Perhaps at this moment, when he truly experiences the love and compassion of his Father. That's what catches him here. That's what he is surprised by here. But the story doesn't end there. The next thing that we see is this debate. Between whom? Two brothers. Okay? So they're going to have this big party. The older brother hears all the noise and everything. He goes to and asks the question, what's going on? And the answer is, what? Your brother's home. Your brother's home. You know what's in the back of his mind? I don't have a brother. He left. He left. So he goes to his father and said, Joe's paraphrase, I just don't understand. I have always been here with you. I've never strayed away. And you never once even gave me, my friends, a little party. I don't understand what's going on. Why? Well, there's three characters in here. The father, the younger son, and the older son. The self-righteous brother says, I deserve better than him because I've always been a church member. They don't deserve the same blessings that I receive because I've always been here. What's the deal? What's the deal? Somewhere along the line, folks, both of them has left home. The younger brother physically left, but somewhere along the line, the older brother left too. Didn't quite grasp what was going on. Didn't, and here's the key to the parables, they didn't understand their father. Neither one of them knew their father. Neither one of them understood what kind of person their father was. And I would suggest to you that most of the problems that we encounter in our spiritual life is because we don't understand who God is. We've missed the point. We don't really understand who He is and what kind of God that He is. He is a God full of love and compassion, that when we come back, He is thrilled. He is thrilled that we have come back. He doesn't, I have my youngest son, Danny, when he comes home and I introduce him to somebody, I don't stand there and say, you know what Danny did when he was 6? You know what he used to do when he was 14? How do I introduce him? This is my son that I love, Dan. Period. I don't bring up his past and start one by one. God doesn't do that either. And see, what many times I'm concerned that we don't understand that's the kind of God that we worship. We just don't get who He is. Saw in the news last night and watched a little bit this morning that Chuck Colson died. Okay? Some younger people don't remember Chuck Colson. How many of you remember who Chuck Colson is? What was he famous for? Watergate. That's the problem. And no criticism, that's the problem. You know what I remember Chuck Colson for? Started one of the greatest prison ministries for Christ in the history of the United States. Wrote book after book, spoke place after place. Because when he went to prison for Watergate, he became a Christian. I have a book of his about this thick called The Body, one of the best books I've ever read about the church, what the church is really like. Okay? So when Chuck Colson comes to Christ, you think that Jesus sits there and says, now Chuck, why did you do that? No. What would Jesus say to Chuck Colson? Thrilled you're here. I am so glad that you have come home. All the Father has is love and compassion for the two sons that have broke His heart. I remember one day in junior church, someone said, well, I learned today that when we sin, we break God's law. And that's true. But beyond that, you understand that when we sin, we break God's heart. That's the problem. God's heart has been broken, but He is ready, willing, and able to forgive us. The sin of both of these sons was leaving the Father. That's the problem. And that's when He gets us back. When Abraham Lincoln was asked, how will you treat the Confederate soldiers once the Civil War is over? His answer was, I will treat them as if they never left. That's how God treats us. Forgives our sins, and we have a better understanding of what He's all about. The devotion that He has for His sons. Period. Period. That's all it's about. The great love He has for us. And anytime we doubt that, take a look at Calvary again and see this great love that Jesus has for us. And you see, folks, the point of this parable are not the two sons. The point of the parable is who? The Father. Lost sheep? Who goes looking for the lost sheep? The shepherd, the Father. Why? Because He loves that sheep. And when He comes back, He says to the people, rejoice with me. The woman that lost the coin. It says she searched everywhere to find it. And when she finds it, what's the response? She calls her neighbors, rejoice with me, because I've found the lost coin. And finally, the lost son. That when the Father embraces the Son, He simply says, rejoice with me. My son's back. I've regained my son. The problem, that neither son really understood the Father. That's the problem. That's the problem. Why is he spending so much time with these sinful people? You know, those people that fly off the handle when they're full of baloney? Because they don't understand the Father. Who does this guy think he is to come to church and think that he can sit with us? I don't understand the Father. If I can sit here and criticize and condemn everything that's around me, I don't understand the Father. If I can look at people and pass judgment upon them, I don't understand the Father. At all. At all. Because those people that I condemn, those people that I criticize, it's me. It's me. That when those people that are strayed from God, when I have strayed from God and I come back to God, God is rejoicing. That's all there is to it. And we need to have a better understanding of the Father. See my whale back there? We haven't named him yet. Not Mark, the whale over here. When I bought this whale, we had a terrible time keeping air in it. I even still have a compressor up there on the ledge when I needed to reinflate that whale. I could not figure out where the air was leaking, so I did everything I could. I inflated it, and I put tape over the valve so it wouldn't leak out, and nothing worked. Nothing worked. Do you know how I finally got it fixed? I threw it away and went and bought another one. The point, folks, is this. We keep asking God to patch us up. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to make us over. We want him just to help us in what I tell people, you want me to help you with the symptoms, but you don't want the cure. And so many times we find ourselves in that very spot. We want Jesus to patch us up, but change me? Oh, no. We've got to come to a point, if we expect to reach the world with the gospel, we've got to understand who the Father is. Who he is, what he's about. He desires and he searches for those to come to him, period. And he did it through Christ. And we can be brought back, not because we are so perfect, not because we do all the right things, but because of his love for us. And that's going to be our hymn of invitation. His love lifted me. That's what brings me back to God. That's the motive I need to have in order to be where I ought to be with God, is love for him and his love for us. So we're going to stand together. We're going to sing Love Lifted Me.